Today is Wednesday, November 25th. Welcome to the Around the Academy podcast. My name is Corey Miller. I'll be your host. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. We hope everyone's doing well. Hopefully you got a chance to listen to our first episode. We published about 2 weeks ago. It was more of an introduction, but we got to interview GA Athletic Director Mr. Ginter. If you haven't gotten to listen to that, it's on our YouTube channel, Around the Academy podcast, so feel free to listen to that. What we're going to do today, though, is we're 2 weeks late. We know that, but we felt we would do a special episode completely geared to GAPC Day. Again, we know it was 2 weeks ago, but we figured it's such a historic rivalry, and there was a lot going on this year with the pandemic, and was expanded to GAPC Week. There's a lot we figured we could do there. So today we don't have any formal guests we're interviewing, but some of the things we did is we went around and asked several coaches and athletes what it was like competing in GAPC Week this year, among other things. We're also going to go over some of the scores from this week. We have several segments based on GAPC Day and GAPC Week this year, including a top 10 about some of the facts you may not know about the history behind GAPC Week and other cool things surrounding this historic event in the history of these two schools. But with that being said, let's jump right into scores and statistics from GAPC Week. You might have already heard some of these, but we'll just go through them one more time. Starting with girls tennis, GA beat Penn Charter 6-1. GA senior Kendall Skalicki won MVP, and GA won 3 of the doubles matches. Boys soccer defeated Penn Charter 3-0. Goals scored there by Christian Combs, Sean Lipschitz, and Nick Vianziali. Sean Lipschitz was named MVP, and the GA goalies pitched a shutout. Girls soccer lost a close one, 3-1. The lone GA goal was scored by Paige Lugosi. On to the field hockey team, who won 2-1. Claire McMichael scored both of the goals there, and senior Sophie Town was named MVP. Boys water polo dropped a close one, 12-9. However, Aiden Walsh scored 3 of the goals there. Girls water polo also fell to Penn Charter. Charlotte Harriman had both of the GA goals in that contest. Unfortunately for the golf team, they were rained out on both Wednesday and Thursday of that week, so they could not compete this year. That was something we were looking forward to, but unfortunately they were rained out. But on to girls cross country, they beat Penn Charter by 2 points, 28-30. Julia Gonzalez and Kayla DeLetto finished first and second respectively, and Julia Gonzalez went on to win MVP of the meet. Boys cross country lost by just a point to Penn Charter, 27-28. Robert DiDonato finished first overall. Alex Badami came in second overall, and DiDonato was just 12 seconds away from breaking the GA course record. He went on to win MVP for the third straight year. And finally, with things tied up 4-4 in the competition cup standings, it all came down to football. Unfortunately, they lost a nail-biter to Penn Charter, 22-21. Brian Allen and Evan Spivey both recovered fumbles. Jordan Longino had 2 rushing touchdowns. Lacey Snowden added a rushing touchdown of his own, but unfortunately GA's last-minute field goal was blocked to give Penn Charter the lead. They took the football game, and they also took the competition cup 5-4. With all that said, again, congratulations to all the athletes and the coaches, especially the seniors who competed this in GAPC Week. It was really a great week. Hopefully you're able to watch some of the live streams, but congratulations to all of those who competed. It was really a great week filled with competitions, and thankfully we were able to get this historic event in this year with all that is going on. But with that being said, why don't we jump right in to what some of the athletes and coaches had to say about what it was like competing in GAPC Week this year, what was the atmosphere like, and what it meant to them to be able to participate in such a historic rivalry. Take a listen to what some of the coaches and athletes had to say.
All right, we're here with varsity football player Mike McGee. Mike, what was it like playing in GAPC Day this year?
So it was definitely different from my freshman year and sophomore year, with just the atmosphere and players, and how there wasn't obviously the same amount of fans there between the years. But that was one thing we talked about with the guys and stuff, is that like we have to bring our own energy and basically just like pick up the slack and everything. We knew people would be watching, but we knew it just wouldn't be the same.
Was the mentality around the game any different this year?
I mean, the mentality is always to win, and that's what it was. But I guess it would still stay the same. It's just the whole atmosphere was definitely different.
At any point during the game, did you stop and think about how surreal it was to be playing this year?
I definitely thought, and I was happy. I was getting my stance. I was like, well, I mean, we're playing football, and I'm ready to win. And that was basically before the game, before the kickoff. I was like, let's do this, with my guys and everything. So I'd just be definitely happy to be on the field.
What was the best part of the game?
I think the best part for me was probably being up 14-0 going in the half, and we were all calm, and we knew that what had to get done, and unfortunately we didn't come out in the second half. But it is what it is, but definitely the being up 14-0 and going in the half.
We are here with member of the girls cross country team, Julie Gonzalez. Julie, what was it like being able to run in GAPC Day this year?
It was a really cool experience, especially since we didn't know if we were going to have it, and the whole season for everyone has just been so up in the air. It was just so exciting to be there, especially with the seniors.
What was the most exciting part about being able to run?
Most exciting part was definitely just the chance to get out there, get some good times in, especially like looking ahead for the track season just to see where I'm at.
Was the mentality around the meet any different this year?
I mean, we raced Penn Charter 2 weeks ago now, and we lost, so it was definitely just very exciting to finally win. But the mentality was definitely to stack the pack, which is one of our sayings on the team, and just to know that we're a lot stronger than you think you are in the current moment.
You won MVP at the end of the meet. How awesome was that?
Honestly, that was pretty great. It's really cool to have my name on there, especially after the Goldsteins. It's just like a pretty cool legacy to leave behind.
Here with member of the boys cross country team, Henry Westcott. Henry, what was it like competing in GAPC Day?
Definitely a little different this year, not gonna lie, but just still love the competitions, like all the competition, like in the past years, just love the rivalry. It was fun.
What was the best part of getting to run in the race?
Just running a good race. I had a nice season PR that race, so it felt pretty good just running fast.
Here with member of the varsity golf team, Jack Luviano. Now, unfortunately, golf was canceled this year on GAPC Day. But, Jack, what were you looking forward to the most this year for golf on GAPC Day?
I think we had a really solid team this year, and it's kind of disappointing that we didn't get to, show everyone what we could do, especially PC, because we know we were going to kill them and ultimately make the competition cup a tie.
What have past GAPC Day games been like?
It's the most fun I've ever had in a match. Every GAPC Day, every one is more fun than the last. And like I said, it was going to be even better this year because, we were going to smack them up. So it was going to be really fun.
What's it like competing in such a historic event?
I think it's really cool because you get to decide the impact. Like, you play a part in the impact of the bigger school, of like the whole school. Like, if we lose, it could potentially mess up the competition cup, mess up the school. But if we win, it's that added, like, we contributed to something bigger than just the team.
All right, I'm here with head boys and girls water polo coach, Coach Kazoil. Coach, what was it like playing in GAPC Day this year?
It's always an electric experience, even though the stands weren't as packed as they normally are. The teams both really brought it, and it was an incredibly emotionally charged performance. You can tell they got up for it more so than any other game. And I think you saw that in the way that both teams came out really strong. Unfortunately for us, the Quakers came out a little bit stronger in the end, but we definitely had the enthusiasm that's traditional of the game to start out.
Was the mentality around this game any different this year?
A little bit more grateful than in years past. I think the guys really appreciated that they had the opportunity to participate in such a historic rivalry. And a lot of them were playing in the game for the first time on both teams, and so it was special for them to not only have the opportunity, but then in light of the circumstances. And I think that the overall air for the day was gratitude rather than frustration at the way the games turned out.
What was your biggest takeaway from the week or the game in general?
We, on both teams, play incredibly hard. We don't always necessarily make the correct water polo-wise decision, but we work really hard to counter it and try to cover that mistake up and be better. Both teams in particular, I can't stress enough, are very committed to each other and committed to the spirit of competitive nature, and left it all in the pool. Like, we had to pull some of the kids, help get some of the kids up and out, it seemed like, because they left it all in the water. So,
Was the best part this year just being able to suit up and participate in this historic rivalry?
I think so, honestly, because we had been through so many up and downs, and we weren't even sure that we were going to be able to play Penn Charter. There was at one point where they were the last league school to bring water polo back, and so that was something that we were, again, uncertain, the buzzword of the year, of the opportunity to have it. So yeah, we were just thankful to get to play in the games.
I'm here with boys varsity soccer coach, Coach Wetzel. Coach, what was it like competing in GAPC Day this year?
Some of the challenges faced this year by the boys, by the community, by the world have made this very, very special. I think the biggest thing was the fact that we got to have it. And that's essential for the senior soccer players. They were the first class that allowed myself, Dr. Torrey, and Coach Rominger to come in. They were excited about the changes that we were bringing, and it was special for them. That's the biggest thing that I had, was it had to be for them. Really doesn't have much to do with me. I'm the coach. It's really about the athletes and the students, and for the boys to be able to have that opportunity to play at home as they were supposed to was incredibly powerful and meaningful.
Was the mentality coming into the game any different this year?
No, not really. GAPC Day, the boys, the coaches, everybody always gets up. It's a big weekend. It's just another game, but it's not. And you're fully aware that GAPC takes on somewhat of a mythical status around here. And it's always a game that you want to win. They want to win all the Interact games, but this one is meaningful because they know it's their last one. For us, it was unfortunately our last one, but they won. And that's special. To be able to go out on a victory, to be able to go out your senior year and say you won your last soccer game of high school is a pretty powerful thing.
As a parent, alumnus, teacher, and coach, how much does this game mean not only to you, but the entire GA community?
I think for the community, it's a powerful thing. It brings us together. It's one of those few things that binds us together. We have the beginning of the year, opening ringing of the bell. We have GAPC Day. We have the holiday assembly. And then it's really hard to get the community together. So from a community standpoint, I think it's really important, especially for the high school. That's really a wonderful thing for them to get to experience and participate in. On a parent level, it's really nice because I got to coach my own son. I'm going to hopefully get the privilege of watching my daughter participate in a GAPC Day because she's a fall athlete. And so as a parent, that's something that you always look forward to watch your senior walk out onto the field and be recognized. And as an alum, I think it's part of a tradition and traditions can be good and bad. It's part of a tradition that I think a lot of people recognize and say, hey, this is when. And the last games of the year are taking place. People are coming back and visiting old classmates and friends. I know every year that I can be counted on to walk into McGurk's after the game for the alumni event and have 4 to 5 of my classmates. It's not a reunion year. They're there going, hey, where's Mr. Wetzel? Where's Kurt? Where's Wetz? Is he here? And my family's gotten used to it. They know the GAPC Day for me starts at 7:30 in the morning and it doesn't end until I get home. And so from all of those standpoints, it's a special time here at GA, and it really helps bring the community together.
Well, there you go. Thanks to all the coaches and athletes who took the time to talk with us about what it was like competing in GAPC Week this year. We're going to take a quick break now, but coming up, we're going to get into some of the detailed history and facts you may not have known surrounding GAPC Week. That's coming up next on the Around the Academy podcast. Welcome back to episode number 2 of the Around the Academy podcast, our special GAPC Week episode this year. We thought we would dive right into some of the history of GAPC Day. As most of you probably know, the football game and how this originally started dates all the way back to 1887. That's when things originally started. Most of the sports don't date them all the way back to 1887 because if you remember, that's when the Interact was also created. And the only 2 sports that were offered at the time were track and field and football. But the sport itself was much different than the football game we see today. There was a lot more kicking of the football, less running it. The football itself was round. At the time, football was still a pretty new sport in America. It was a cross between rugby and soccer. There were no helmets worn, no nose guards, no padding, none of that stuff that you see now. Originally, the first GA football tradition began under Dr. Kershaw as the school's headmaster, and the team itself was only comprised of 11 students because the student body was a lot smaller than it is today. But that first team in 1887 was only made up of 11 students. They beat Penn Charter 20-6, and originally this was just the first meeting between the two teams who kind of co-founded the Interact League back in 1887. This was one of the first. That was the first time the football teams played, and that's really how it started. It wasn't started really as any or meant to be any historic event. These teams just kind of naturally started playing, and then it built on from there. And it really started to catch on. You go all the way up to 1922. The game saw 6,000 people in attendance, according to newspapers at the time. And then fast forward 12 years later, up to 1934, 7,000 people attended the game. Some other key dates, 1925, 1926, that season was the first time that you saw another sport being added in kind of the GAPC day. That was boys soccer, who started playing at the time. And then you fast forward to 1953, that was the first year that the Geist Trophy was awarded in GAPC Day history. That is the MVP trophy that is given to the MVP of the football game after every yearly competition. 1987, that was, of course, the 100th anniversary of this historic football game. And then 1990s is really when things kind of start to take shape, and you see the GAPC Day as we know it now. The hallway decorating begins. We obviously could not do that this year, but that's a great tradition when each grade decorates their respective hallway during the week in anticipation for the game. And also in the 1990s, the big key was that girls' sports were added into GAPC Day, including girls field hockey, cross country, soccer, and tennis. And then that led to the creation of the Competition Cup in 1996, which is all that really is whoever wins the most events in the given day, or in this case, week this year, takes the Competition Cup. PC won it, of course, this year, winning 5-4. But fast forward to 2001, boys water polo was added, and then if you go up to 2008, girls water polo was added. So that was the last sport to be added. And aside for volleyball, Penn Charter unfortunately does not have a volleyball team. But you go to 2008 GAPC Day, that was the first GAPC Day that included every single fall sport, again with the exception of volleyball. But that is really when things start to look like the modern GAPC Day as we know it now. So hopefully some of the history was somewhat interesting to you. Now, what we figured we would do now, we're going to include this segment a lot in the future, but we figured we'd kick it off today. We're going to do a special GAPC Day Top 10. Today it's going to be the top 10 facts about GAPC Day, not in any particular order. Well, let's just start at number 10 again. We're not going in any order of importance, but just top 10 interesting facts. And number 10 is historic events that have happened throughout the GAPC Day history, again, starting all the way back in 1887. So, throughout its history, the NFL was created. That was in 1920. Originally, when they first started playing, there were only 15 amendments. Now there are 27. The Wright brothers had yet to make their first controlled flight in an aircraft. Long-distance phone calls had not yet happened. Women did not have the right to vote. The Star-Spangled Banner had not become the national anthem yet. The United Nations had not been established yet. The first television broadcast had not happened yet. No people had gone into space or landed on the moon yet. The NBA hadn't been established. Neither had the U.S. Soccer Federation, and several events like the U.S. Open and the Super Bowl had yet to be played. So you get a sense of how old this rivalry is and some of the things that have happened in between its starting date and still going on today, how old it is and how historic it is. So moving on to number 9, and number 9 is the impact it has on the school's community. I know Penn Charter does a lot of stuff similarly to what we do, and I know kind of the athletes and the coaches touched on this, but in normal years, We have a pep rally, hallway decorating, senior strut, which we did get to have this year. It was great to see the seniors be able to participate in that. And then, of course, the day itself includes all the athletic events, and then it also includes the alumni reunions. So it really just, the whole event and the week leading up to it just brings together the community to one of the few times all year where the entire school gathers together. I mean, you're able to take part in all of these special events, and it really is just such a cool historic event for the community to be able to be a part of. On to number 8, which is they were the first meeting of the Interact League. This isn't technically true. If you remember, the Interact League was established the same year these two teams played football in 1887. The Interact League is also one of the oldest high school athletic leagues in the country. Now, football was not technically the first sporting event played. The actual first event that was held was a tug of war held in Penn Charter's gym, and then they did hold a few track meets in May of 1887, but this had to be one of the first fall events ever held in the Interact, as this was then held in the fall of 1887. These two teams squared off. So it's the oldest continuous high school football rivalry in the country, taking part in one of the oldest high school athletic conferences in the country, which is also, interestingly enough, was kind of co-established by GA and Penn Charter. George Deacon played a big part of that, as did Henry Brown from Penn Charter. So these two schools are kind of responsible for the creation of the Interact League. Moving on to 7, its impact on culture. Now, obviously, both of these schools have several famous alumnus, and even alumnus who may not be famous, but just kind of remember this event and come back and remember this event every year. Obviously, Bradley Cooper's been back several times. It's always great to see him, and that can attract quite some attention from local news or just people seeing him at the event. But also from the Penn Charter side, the creator of the Goldbergs, Adam Goldberg, is actually an alumnus of Penn Charter, and the rivalry has kind of appeared on his show. It features GA as the chief rival of the school in the show, which is Penn Charter, and the show also actually features teachers and students who attended both GA and PC in the 80s and the 90s, and another reference in pop culture is the rivalry appeared in the show Schooled, which is a spinoff of the Goldbergs, and it also features the fictional William Penn Academy as the primary setting for the show, taking the place of the William Penn Charter School. So the rivalry has its spot in pop culture on those TV shows. But moving on to number 6 is the changes in the schools since the start of GAPC Day. Things definitely looked a lot different in 1887. Obviously, when GA was founded, then, as we mentioned, there was no athletic league. That was back in 1759, Penn Charter 1796. There was no athletic league. There was no house system for us, no alma mater yet, no school paper. Things were a lot different in 1887 when these two started competing than they are now. The GA campus was still located in Germantown, hence the Germantown Academy. Neither school was coeducational. So these schools looked a lot different in 1887 than they did today. On to number 5. It is actually not, and this is why we use the word continuous, the GAPC rivalry is not the oldest high school football rivalry in the country. That goes to Norwich Free Academy and New London High School in Connecticut. They beat GAPC by 12 years. That's when their rivalry started in 1875. The reason it's not the oldest continuous high school football rivalry in the country is because they suspended play during the 1940s due to World War II, which makes us the longest continuous high school football rivalry, and at least American football rivalry. Oddly enough, they actually played in the spring of 1875. May of 1875 is when those teams first started playing. GA and PC both older than both of those two schools, but they did not start playing football before them. Number 4, all the sports that are played in one day. Now, obviously, this was not the case. That was not the case this year because we had to spread things out this year. But something that is amazing, every year in a normal year, all those athletic events are played in one day. So that includes football, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls cross country, golf, field hockey, girls tennis, and boys and girls water polo. All those events are played in one day for both of these schools. For GA, at least, I got to believe that that's the only time throughout the whole year when you see that many athletic teams competing in just one day, and it really just adds some fuel to that rivalry and just kind of shows you how special it is. Number 3 is the amount of professional athletes that have played in GAPC Day. There are several of them for both Penn Charter and GA. For Penn Charter, you have Chris Albright, former professional soccer player, played for the Philadelphia Union. Matt Ryan, of course, who most people probably know, plays for the Falcons, former third overall pick. Mike McGlinchey plays for the 49ers. Sean Singletary and Darryl Worley, 2 other football players who went to Penn Charter. For GA, Jen Hoy, she's a former pro soccer player for the Chicago Red Stars and the Sky Blue FC. She had a great high school career at GA, 110 goals, 46 assists, 36 goals during her senior career, so she was a big participant in GAPC Day. Dan Lovitz, he's a current professional soccer player. He went to GA, plays for the Nashville SC now. He's actually commented about playing on GAPC Day. He said he'll always remember the atmosphere on GAPC Day. Playing in front of that many people was incredible, and to be out there with classmates and your closest friends is hard to beat. You could just keep going down the list for GA. You have Sean Grieve, played for the Phillies. David Lawson, former New York Yankee. Laura Kurz, professional basketball player, briefly in Europe in the WNBA. And what's really cool is that some of these people, so like the last 3 mentioned, their professional sport was not a fall sport that they played on GAPC Day. They did something else professionally, but they still played a fall sport and participated in the historic rivalry, whether that was football, obviously, or another sport, soccer, water polo, tennis, cross country, anything. They still competed in the day itself. Number 2, the criteria GA and PC have played through. So as we just mentioned, those 2 schools in Connecticut that have an older rivalry than GAPC were unable to play through or just chose not to play through World War II. And this has been mentioned throughout the week, but these 2 schools have played through 2 world wars, 2 global pandemics. Obviously, the influenza pandemic back in 1918 that lasted in 1920, that actually infected 500 million people, which is a third of the world's population of the time. And that came in four waves. They managed to play through that. They played through 6 total wars, 4 of which included drafts. So it's really amazing some of the criteria that these 2 schools, GA and PC, have played through to maintain the title of oldest high school football rivalry in the country. And we get to number 1. Again, not in any order, but this is pretty cool. GAPC Day is older than most college football rivalries. I mean, GAPC Day is older than the NFL. The NFL was established in 1920. But getting back to college, a lot of times, you think of college rivalries, you think of Harvard and Yale, the Army-Navy game, but GA is actually older than most of them. It's not older than the Harvard-Yale rivalry. They met in 1875. GAPC, though, is older than the Army-Navy game. They first met in 1890, so GA getting in 3 years before them. The oldest college rivalry, though, is the Yale-Princeton rivalry. That dates all the way back to 1873. Most of the Ivy League schools were some of the first in the country to play. The exceptions there are Lafayette and Lehigh. They first played in 1884. But that is the only non-Ivy League school, actually, that began playing football before GA and Penn Charter. So actually pretty cool there how GA and Penn Charter, older than the NFL, the football game, but it's also older than all these college rivalries, and it includes all these sports, all these fall sports, spanning from soccer to water polo and everything in between. So there you go, top 10 facts about GAPC. We hope you enjoyed the list. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll come back, wrap things up. Don't go away. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back to the Around the Academy podcast. We are back here to wrap things up on our special GAPC week episode. We just wanted to again reiterate our congratulations to the coaches and athletes who participated this year. Again, especially the seniors. This was definitely not the GAPC day or week they were anticipating or wanted to have. So unfortunately, they could not experience how it is kind of usually played. But fortunately, the biggest thing is we got to have it. As many people we asked touched on this, we got to play all of these games. We got to have the week. We got to continue this great tradition. So great job again. Congratulations to both GA and Penn Charter for putting this event together, this week together, setting up all the live streams. And again, it was really just a great week of competition to renew this historic rivalry. So many of you probably are wondering when we're going to get into our team previews. That's going to be next episode, episode 3. We'll restart with the football team. We're going to interview Jeff Decker and Mike Rand, two of the captains on that football team, so you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned for episode 3, coming out very soon. Thanks for joining us today for this special GABC episode number 2 on the podcast. Again, don't miss episode number 3. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. My name is Corey Miller. Thanks for joining us, everyone.